It's a virtual meetup platform, and coincidentally, it has got during the pandemic, and that's why the whole metaverse concept has come out, and we are very lucky to be in this space. Prior to NextMate, I was in the 3D industry for almost 17 years, and that's how the transition happened from virtual reality to metaverse. So that's been my journey.
Hi folks, my name is Arun. I run creative, all the divisions for Electronic Arts, so which is design, production, UX, marketing, etc. So like Anubhav said, I've been with you for the last 16 years. The years I've done a lot of different types of things. At this point, I'm working on a couple of prototypes, unannounced. Can't necessarily talk about them, but we run a portfolio of games, about $200 million worth of stuff that we run out of Hyderabad. So that's what I manage.
Hi everyone, I'm Kashyap, CEO, co-founder of Hitwicket. Hitwicket is a cricket-based strategy game. I've been a gamer all my life, been a cricket fan all my life, and we thought, it's about time a cricket fan and a game like FIFA, so that there are a billion people out there, build a product that any people of all ages can engage with. Today we have about 3 million people playing our game across 70 countries, and we want to be right up there the way FIFA is known world over. We want to build India's first world-class game.
Yes, how many of you are metaverse entrepreneurs? Awesome. How many of you are metaverse students? Okay, awesome. How many of you are going to apply for the incubator? Sorry, not the incubator, accelerator. Awesome, quite a few hands. Cool. Let's pick the brains of these panelists because some of you are going to submit your accelerator applications. You can use their answers in the application. So yeah, that's the trick, right? Like we need to pick their brains to make the applications also strong. Cool. So we'll start off with some questions. What's the state of metaverse right now, and what's your definition of metaverse?
I think the real state of metaverse is a lot of confusion, I would say, because right now it's so nascent that everybody has their own definition of what metaverse actually means, right? Depending on whom you are, the definition is going to be different. But my definition of metaverse is a shared virtual space where people can commute together, right, converge together, and engage in a fun activity, like the way we are doing right now, right? And instead of just being physically present everywhere, it could be something virtual. That way, in this new age, globalized world, getting to know people, we've all been playing a lot of online games. But imagine just something like that, right? And in a much more fantasized sort of an experience, think of it like a Harry Potter universe, right? Or a Marvel cinematic universe. Imagine something like that, where you are part of the experience along with your friends, and it becomes what you make of it, to be honest.
Right, let me add a couple more tidbits. How many of you guys know about this game called Second Life? Okay. Right, so Second Life is one of the first sandboxes that existed where people were able to communicate with each other via avatar in a virtual world. Buy stuff. There was a lot of corporate intervention also that happened in the Second Life, but it is what it is, right? So an omnipresent virtual world is built on the tenets of communication, interaction is what I would define as a metaverse. Metaverse right now is a buzzword. It's a meta universe, right? So at the end of the day, that's how these virtual worlds came about. So anything that can omnipresent is the keyword there. So shared spaces, like Kashyap is saying, right? So after you leave that space, somebody else comes in. What you leave behind still stays there. So something that stays on forever in the virtual space or until it is cleared, right? So that's how I would define metaverse.
So I have two formats of explaining metaverse. One liner is internet in 3D. That's your space. We have been living in a 2D internet so far, and we're shifting to the 3D internet. more immersive, more interactive. You get to participate, you get to own things, you get to transact. So this is one liner. Coming to the broader explanation of metaverse, I think it's been explained very well by John, a very famous entrepreneur in the metaverse space. He says there are 7 layers of metaverse. So it's a large spectrum we are talking about. It's like talking about internet. We can't just define it in 1 or 2 sentences. But the 7 layers consist of the experience, the hardware, the infrastructure, various other factors. Wish we could have more elaborate on that. But for me, it's about virtual worlds where Arun Kashyap have already explained that people get to interact, communicate, collaborate, and ultimately you are not just watching something, but you are participating. That's the beauty of metaverse.
So, in the last 6 months of metaverse, what have you seen that got you excited the most?
So I would say that the way, I mean, I know I'm coming from gaming, so I'm a little biased to that. But I would say that the way there have been a couple of these metaverse and blockchain-based gaming that have been coming up. I think Mecha Fight Club in particular, where you're like fighting with a bunch of machinized folks, and you there's a leaderboard, and people are like trying to train up these things and then buying and selling. So that was particularly interesting because when if you guys have played second, I kind of wonder that okay, I'm doing something in real life. Now I can do something in virtual life, which is always going to be a little downgraded version of your real life. In the sense that the way how much you are able to perceive how your the 3D world is not going to be as realistic as real life itself. Right? It's always going to be a little bit of a downgrade. But what you want from virtual space is to be able to do something that you cannot do in the real world. Like think about flying. Right? You can't fly a Superman in real world, but the virtual you can fly. That's what makes it interesting, right? Like just visiting a place of historical monument in the real world or virtual world, it's okay, fine, it's good to do. But what if you could visit the moon, right? Now that makes it interesting, right? So there are a couple of these projects which are coming up, which are making you do stuff like this. I mean, sandbox, obviously, and so anything, particularly like sandbox and these games, where you are doing things which you've always wanted to do, but you can't do in real life, right? And I think those sort of projects have been doing really well, and I'm particularly bullish about any project which has content which resonates and not just the technology part.
From my perspective, I would expand the 6-month window to maybe like a couple of years.
Sure.
Asha was saying, metaverse is in a state of perennial confusion. That's what it is, because people tend to create their own definitions of what a metaverse is. Metaverse is supposed to be universal. It is not owned by anybody in purest form. But right now what we are seeing are incarnations of these which are held by a certain entity, where you can't share stuff from one world to another world. Example, I'm a part of a metaverse that is by Meta, and I can't take that avatar and plonk it seamlessly into another avatar that is, or a virtual world that is created by another company, because there is no interoperability, right? So there needs to be some governance and some policies that need to come up. But if I were to talk about what has excited me, until I met Pushpa here, I did not realize about this company called Next Step. There was another one called Verbela. I'm sure you. It's a French company, and Verbela is a tool that you would use to do the virtual trainings and stuff like that. Okay, and it's a very, very beautiful and an innovative concept that came up maybe 4 to 5 years ago, and the guys have been developing that platform for a very long time. They're all game developers who gleaned off and started this virtual, metaverse, right? So you would go in. There is a beautiful concept of you have auditoriums inside, and you have doors for those auditoriums. Okay, avatar can walk up to that door, close the door. The moment you close it, anybody outside that door won't be able to hear you. So it's very technologically very advanced as well, right? You can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody, and we have very effectively used those sort of tools for training in our own network. The other thing that it is not something that is already in place, but something that I'm looking forward to is governance policies around metaverse, because there's amplification of bullying that can happen in this world. Second World was a very Second Life was a very clear example of what can go wrong sometimes, right? So I'm looking forward to people. There are a couple of startups who are right now working on how do we set ground rules and what is possible and what is not. I know it is not as flashy as the answer that Kashyap gave, but I wanted to take it on a different tangent and talk about the restaurants.
Thank you, Arun. Yeah, rightly said. Verbella was one of our favorite until we developed next week. Now, we would want everyone to experience next week. Now, apart from what we have been developing, the kind of experience we had from the clients who were using, one of the things which I primarily focus, like Kashyap said, there's no point replicating your real life and living in the virtual world, right? Just like having a bench and you want to go and sit in the virtual world, you could do it in the real life, but do something which is not possible in your real life. Like you want to enter into the aircraft engines, which is not possible, and understand and study. This is the kind of technology which would allow you to immerse and understand in depth. There are some places where it's very difficult to even go, like an oil rig, or could be a crucial, some kind of mine. So this is the kind of use case which you should be exploring. That's the right use case for metaverse, rather than a beautiful hall and just living in a virtual world. Just go. Should we go this way? Sure.
So most of your students here, I gather that from the raise of hands before. So just a quick poll, like if you're building a metaverse product category, in what category would you guys build? Is it games, or is it education, or is it travel and tourism? Wow, that's interesting. Any other? Education. And anyone else? Anything else? Real estate. Got it. Okay, so the reason I asked that question was like three people here, they are incredible entrepreneurs, operators. They have like tremendous tactical knowledge in their heads, building teams over the last 10, 15 years. So maybe if somebody is building a travel metaverse product, how should they think about anatomy of setting up their team? Like how should they think about making their first 5 hires? How should they think about getting their first customer? Can three of you comment on that?
Just the travel part.
I mean, like one of the 3 categories. They just
So I remember like the travel being the experience part. So there are certain use cases which I have seen from my experiences. It's not just about the destination, but it's also about the journey. You could create something around the journey on how you book, travel, check in, explore places. This is all a part of your holiday. And then the use case about education, remote learning, virtual universities. Now that is a big time business which is coming out because it's connecting the world, just like the remote education. And then we had the real estate. It's a very strong case of sales in the metaverse. It's a very convincing point to make customers come into your flat before buying it. And then your sales representative comes along with you to show you your flat. So this is a very sales-centric use case. Now, ultimately, it's going to all come down to, if you're asking me about how they should start, they have to definitely start building the product by looking at the data, by looking at who are the end paying customers. Because everybody gets excited when they look at metaverse.
How many engineers would somebody have to hire before they approach funding?
Well, it should start with as low as 2 to start with, because that's what you required to build a POC. A POC is the first stepping stone to get to the investor and tell them you're not just talking about a slide, but you have something which you imagine, and then you have a working POC, not just a dummy POC, and also show the data. It cannot be just something which is having some nice, beautiful 3D imagery, but you need to have a data. Tell the investor that based on the research, these are the customers who are going to buy. So a team not more than 4 to start with.
Okay, here's my take. I'll bring in some flavor of gaming into this, right? So travel is a very unique thing that you could do. If you want to experience a place, you could go to that place, or you could experience it in virtual reality, right? So, but the moment you are able to merge virtual reality with imaginary worlds, that is when you have a win, right? So think of let's say the Eiffel Tower, and you have the dragon from the Game of Thrones coming in and sitting on the Eiffel Tower or something, right? So think of Google Maps in a virtual environment where you have a lot of different locations that you could walk to, and you could combine that a little bit. I mean, right now I am thinking out loud, but maybe you could do a lot of aerobics and exercise-based stuff as well. For people like me, that would be super useful, right? So that kind of, I get to see a new part of the world that I haven't seen before, and at the same time, do stuff that would be intrinsically helpful for me. Because if I just see that and I forget about it, it's like watching a review of a place on YouTube and not going to that place, right? So something needs to be there. And if you're able to merge your virtual world with actual commercial interest, so let's say people want to advertise in that world. Earth 2, I don't know if you guys know what Earth 2 is. It's a online virtual land place where I don't know how many of you have invested. I have, but so that kind of is, you could do something like that where you can bring in interest. Education is a classic field. So for me, I see it's a no-brainer. So if you're able to replicate what happens inside of the classrooms, inside of the disconnected world that we are living in right now, where people are in remote locations, etc., that would be super cool. And Verbella, like I said, was a classic example. Real estate, like Vishnu mentioned, I think there is a very clear use case of being able to visualize what you want to sell, and being able to showcase stuff to people even before you start doing stuff. So it's already being used. A lot of them are using it. Back in the day, a friend of mine was running this startup called Raptor. Raptor was one of the first companies in India which was developed around gaming. It was a Bangalore-based startup, and they used to develop virtual reality-based, applications for realtors. Okay, and at that time you had to carry a laptop in your backpack and huge wires coming out. It was a hardware that was specifically created for them. And I'm talking about early 2000, 2009, 2010. So way back when. So,
how many of you are familiar with the concept of MVP, minimal viable product? Right? Most of you starting out, you're thinking in this world, that's how you kind of start. But the challenge with the metaverse is it's an experience, right? So it can't just work, it can't be functional, because most things can be done in a non-metaverse way, but it can be non-metaverse way more effectively right now. Because metaverse is a complete experience where minimal viable product may not work. We need a minimal lovable product, because people must feel that, okay, yeah, this is completely different, right? Until then they'll be like, okay, why did I do it this way instead of just doing it in some other way where existing solutions are probably superior, right? So you need to craft, even if the experience is short, maybe it's like a very short sort of a thing, but you need that to be like top things, right? It's like a game. Like nobody wants to play an MVP game. Trust me, that'll be the first game to get uninstalled. Right? The standards are already quite high. Like that, right? So I would say that you need a fair number of engineers in terms of getting the 3D right, a fair amount of polish. Even if the experience is even just 5 minutes, it needs to be top class where people go, wow. Right? And I think that will be important. So whoever is trying to build something and build that solid use case of why something should do this virtually instead of doing it live, right? We have all been through this COVID scenario of virtual meetings, virtual conferences. conferences. We know it's a bit of a compromise. Yes, it's convenient, you don't have to travel and things like that. But why are you guys here? Like, rather be here than watch the video on wherever it's shown. And that's going to be hard to do. So you're going to give something that's even better than, academic, right? More in-depth engagement or something like that. Right? So you got to think of those use cases and see what is the minimal allowable product going to look like to craft that solution.
So, just adding to what Kashi was talking about, right? So I just didn't touch on the production aspect of making something like this. I think one of the other hack that you guys can apply when you're doing something like this is being able to create a virtual world without actual interactions happening. Put it in a 3D engine like Unity, Unreal, etc., and render it out at the highest quality possible with the interactions already baked in. So that would become like okay, here's my sales pitch. This is what I'm trying to build. If you are looking for seed fund, probably that is how you would approach it. But that needs to be like real top class, right? And apart from the minimum lovable product that really like that one, by the way, that you would create, also think of what are all the extensions. What's the vision for your product, right? You can't just be like, okay, this is what I would like to develop and put it out there. It needs to be like staged properly. Like, look at what is version 1 going to be like, version 2 going to be like, and how are you going to take it? And sometimes you might not have the visuals for it, and you just need a representation saying, okay, this is where it is going to go, right? And this is what we are going to do. Use a hack, use systems that that will allow you to get things done faster. The moment somebody starts to see visuals of what you're trying to do, there will be interest. So.
Cool guys, I think those are some great tactical inputs. 2 engineers and then minimum lovable product, and then use Unity, do hyper realistic rendering before approaching your investors. Yeah, like we are almost on the way to get the first check. So, did you guys have any questions? Anyone has any question or any remark? Pricing.
That is a discovery. I mean, we're still discovering pricing because it's perceived pricing. Obviously, when we talk about remote collaboration, first thing comes to mind is Zoom or the free Google Meet. So why is Zoom charging you and why is Google Meet free? And then you have to be in between, free and charge. So it's going to take some more time when the market is more.
Well, I would say it will depend a lot on your market, what you're trying to do with the metaverse. And there's going to be a big challenge that to get people onto the metaverse. So it's unlikely people are going to pay a premium for that in this stage, right? So it'll boil down to what exactly are you providing and why should the user value this? Just like any other thing, but you have to go out of your way to try to use it because they're trying to sell a technology. So a lot of adaptation and a fair amount of hardware and whatever requirements that are there. So you have to get past all that value. So you have to be extremely aggressive with your pricing.
Let me throw another connector into. People put metaverse and Web3 in the same sentence. So are you wanting to sell in Web3? Is that what you're thinking of? Just the metaverse, right? So it all come down. It will come down to what you're trying to sell. At the end of the day, what is your product? What does it do? Right? So that's where you start. And always keep in mind the Big Mac index. Not everybody can pay the same amount of money throughout the world. Right? So you will have to look at purchase power parity. Once you decide that, hey, this is my minimum selling price for this particular region, you will have to adjust accordingly for other regions. Right? So Big Mac index will tell you how much a burger costs in the US versus how much it costs in India. So,
I have a question here. Jay, actually, I'm working on a metaverse. We are working for real estate in that. My question is, how a company is going to choose the tech stack? It's more towards a tech line question. because we have Unreal, we have Unity, and we have 3Js also that we can on the coding side we can build some metaverses. But the differences will be experiences because I think rightly said by Kashyap here, lovable product. The experience does really matter, right? In the first version when the client looks at it, I think that's when you grab his attention and you make this happen with it, obviously. And here there's no payable product here because there has to be complete product which is to experience a company. But the question comes in with the tech stack, how a company, how a startup is going to choose that. Because we started with Unreal now and we see complications coming in. And I see at some point that Unity can do it. Then I have to go and hire Unity also, right? And I see some 3JS might work from again. So how to choose that tech stack going in? It's a primary question.
You're asking any specific question? Or?
No, it's like it's an open question, the tech stack, because this is one of the questions that needs to be.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. In fact, what Kashyap had earlier mentioned was a lovable product for the investor. And there's a difference from what you show to the investor and then eventually building for the customer. Because customer is ultimately going to use it. Investors are not going to use it. Investors need to understand how this thing works. So Unreal is a beautiful, application. You create, very realistic outputs. But when it comes to your end user, if he says he wants to use it on a mobile phone or a low-end VR headset, you are going to get stuck if you are using a very high graphic demanding, realistic stuff. So you will have to choose between the softwares to optimize it to ultimately reach the end customer. The device is basically the device.
So based on the customer,
if your customer is real estate and it's going to be his customer, a real estate guy is further asking his customers. You can't expect their customers to have VR headsets. They might come on a tablet or a PC or a laptop. But if you are doing it for a real estate who has a sales center and they provide the VR headsets, they might have the graphic resources to make the experience. Then you could choose your pipeline to be Unreal Engine. So it's to understand where the ultimate experience is going to happen, right? So if this guy is doing a sales center, you could do the best graphics. The guy says, my customers are going to watch it on mobile phone. I want the real time stuff. Unity. Again, I don't want to debate with Arul because he's an expert.
Technology is a means to an end. You figure out what you want to build. Don't choose the tech stack first. Figure out what you want to build. Right? Like clearly define that this is the sort of fidelity that I want. This is the sort of interaction that you want. These are the sort of specs that I would like so that they can support 20 different devices. Usually, the easiest form is something that you can carry in your hand, whether it is your mobile device, laptop, etc., etc. In the virtual space, it is the Quest, right? So Quest easily can run, because it is based on Android as a base. You can, if you are able to export out of either of the platforms, I have no choice by the way. So sometimes when we are making tech decisions on a product, on a game, right? So we don't look at, hey, we just have to use this tech stack. Tech stack is, it's not a science project, right? So it's something that needs to generate revenue for us, something that will allow us to enter the market with our dreams realized. Something that we would like to see in the world is already done, right? So it kind of, base your decision on that, and also base your decision on people who you currently have. What are they comfortable with? In terms of the pipelines, both of them are very different, whether it is blueprints that you want to do on Unreal or whether it is being able to very clearly and very quickly do something in Unity. There's a very vast difference. So base it on the people that you already have. I'm assuming that you don't have the resources of the world to be able to hire again. So please make a decision prudently basis of people that you currently have.
To give you a bit of a dirty answer, is that go with the mindset that one thing is fundamentally I believe that to build a metaverse, it's going to take a lot of resources. Right? And here, like Arun testified, to build a AAA quality game is insane amount of money, insane number of developers, time, everything goes on. And metaverse is going to be something. So at this stage, when you're starting off, you should not even think that at that stage, but just thinking about a small scale demonstration. So go with the mindset that whatever I'm building now, I'm going to scrap it in a few months for sure. Don't even try to keep it beyond that. Absolutely not. Right? So go with whatever you are absolutely comfortable with, your team are comfortable with, because getting in talent is going to be damn hard in this space. So go with where you are maximum comfortable to be able to deliver something that can be deliverable. Once you cross that first validation or barrier, then after time, just think about it from scratch and then figure out the best possible solution for it.
There's another one. So think of, I always tell this to my teams, right? So I call this 6x6. It's a matrix. So 6 months, 6 people. Okay. If you want a product out, you should be able to demonstrate that minimum lovable product by the end of 6 months, right? Or something's not working. If things are not shaping up by the end of 6 months, something's really not working. You'll have to introspect. Throw it out, right? So I will never take prototype code into production. Something that we are tinkering with will never get into production. So we throw stuff away. So as much as you like it and love it and you built it from scratch and all that, just not worth having the trouble later on.
I followed the other way around. I followed 2 developers, 2 months.
Very
We are huge conglomerates.
Budget is the issue. Getting 100 developers are very hard. It's just an extension of the same question again here. Because when we talk about metaverse, because I've been in the real estate for the last 4-5 months now, and wherever I reached out to all the CXOs in the market, people are not really happy with the Quest or the VR headsets or whatever. Right?
The Quest or
the VR headsets. In fact, let's talk about the VR headsets. We have 2 versions in a mobile, whatever. But people are really not comfortable in the market, and they believe that their audience are not going to love that experience, or not going to at least consider that for a point. And we see that the shortage of hardware here, how is that going to affect the XR technologies in the market? Because on the other side of because I see people are promoting metaverse in different concepts. Everyone have their definitions. If you ask me, I believe that it's a shared environment where you can be able to talk to the other person through an avatar. That's media communication. AR, VR is just an upgradation of that experience. That's what I believe, right? And medium channel could be your mobile phone or laptop for a while, because it takes a lot of time for us to distribute the hardwares across India so that people will be used for VR. So how do you think this hardware shortage going to affect the whole VR XR?
See, I mean, when it started, it was even bulkier. The Oculus, the research gadgets used to come with a lot of cables, and it was very, very complex. Then they came up with this wireless model, which I'm sure everybody agrees that is the most comfortable right now. But still, if certain companies feel that it could start becoming lighter, one thing is it is going to become more expensive. Somebody has to fit in a much smaller size. So there's going to be challenge for sure with the comfort, and the second point, the availability, and so that's a challenge which we're all waiting, the availability part, because like you said, even if the customer takes the product from you, he needs to provide that kind of hardware to the experience consumers. So another way of looking at it would be, eventually every large organization like the Geo and the Adanis, they are going to come up with a OTT way of looking at and experiencing things. Like, when was the last time you remember buying the internet modem? Nobody remembers. We bought it during our generation because we had to go and buy it. Now the service provider is. The same way, the VR headset could become a consumer device, and that's where a lot of gadgets are going to come into the market.
If I knew the answer to that question, I probably would be driving the Ferraris. So I am not. So at this point, there is a global shortage for sure. So I've seen the first instances of a virtual reality headset coming from, since 2010 to the GDCs back then. We always used to see virtual reality as the next thing that is coming out in the next 2 years. And even now, it is the next 2 years only the virtual reality headsets are
Research in it.
Yeah. There's a lot of the technology is advancing, right? So the headsets that are becoming cheaper, better quality, optics are coming in. So Quest, the new Quest that is coming out later this year, I think is going to be far more advanced than what we already have. But you still have that hardware barrier, right? So until Geo became a, Geo brought in the internet revolution in India, access to internet itself was a very difficult thing in this region, right? So you will have to depend fair and square on, you'll have to assume if you're selling to reality industry, you will have to assume that they are going to afford those they are going to afford those hardware and make it for the best possible hardware because you have the luxury of doing it.
Myself, Surya. I work with. I'm a faculty of design in Bolster, and I'm the founder of Physical Design Lab. So the name itself says that it tries to merge the physical and the digital world. So I guess right now most of the virtual world things are not. I mean, the public is not able to adapt with it because most of things are dependent on the visual things. As we know that it has to be much more sensorial experiences. That's where we are focusing. I guess the answer to this person would be like trying to come up with products which are more sensorial, not only focusing on visual, not just focusing on the headsets. There can be better products which are going to provide better experiences in the virtual spaces through the physical products. That's where that's the gap we need to cover. And we are
haptics.
yes, haptics is one part, wearables is one part, and might be exoskeletons are one part. So combine these, we have to come with better product which can help public to engage in the virtual world in much immersive manner. That's where we at Books are not focusing on designing the products.
That's the actual vision of metaverse, to be able to live like you are living in the real world, to feel.
I guess that's the gap we are trying to fill.
So I have a slightly different topic. So the first $10,000 check or the $20,000 check when an entrepreneur or a builder has $0 in their bank account for this project, that matters like way more than the $10,000 check or a $20,000 check when they have $1 million in their bank or when they have $10 million in their bank. How did you guys get your first check for your products? How did you find your first investor?
So we had to first get some checks from our customers, I would say, because back when we entered the gaming space, we had to validate and just building a game was no longer enough. Because like a lot of people build games, but revenue is what people were talking about, and the true validation for a product like ours was if people use it, it's one thing, but unless they're willing to spend on it, it really doesn't make much sense as a business, right? So that's something that we did concentrate on. We didn't think about investors from the get-go. It was more like how do we get people to spend? And initial users were obviously friends and family and extended friends of friends, and a lot of user interviews to understand what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and then you were talking to random people, and these are all standard stuff that every startup goes through. And the moment we started seeing money coming in, that is when we realized, okay, the idea is up until that point, we're just thinking, okay, is this even good? Does it even matter? Is it just fun? Is that good enough? Right? So I think if you just target at how we're going to get a customer to spend, open their wallet for a product like this, somehow in the way you'll end up, even the investors start seeing that, okay, yeah, this is something that customers can spend on it in a big time in the future. So I would say that think about how to get the customer to spend. Where will the customer spend? Sometimes it's a very weird sort of scenario. Where can a customer spend in your product, right? And would you, if you were a customer, would you spend on a product? Maybe ask yourself those hard questions and see where that leads.
Well, I've been lucky. because I come from the industry of 3D and I've been working with friends for more than 15 years. They easily understand what we had in mind, what we wanted to build, but it's not always easy to convince an investor what you have in mind and what you can actually start selling. So I think the first lesson is to identify who are your paying customers and who are the exciting those guys who are excited about technology. This happened with us. We are in 2015 when we got hold of the Oculus Rift and we went to show it to the customers. They all got excited. Zero conversion. They all bought the hardware. They didn't become our customers. They went to the shop. So it was like I was the salesperson for Oculus Facebook. I demonstrated it to a lot of people and they all bought Oculus. So the challenge with metaverse is this is such a huge topic that you might easily get distracted when you start getting into building something for metaverse. There's going to be a lot of distraction. Fashion industry, retail, real estate, healthcare, manufacturing, education, all these are going to come into your mind, and then the investor is definitely not going to like it because वो बोलेगा ये क्या क्या करेगा एक product. I think after the brainstorm, the real challenge to convince a seed investor for us was to tell him that we are only focusing on one particular segment. We are creating providing a solution for that particular industry, for a particular problem, instead of talking about 10 problems and 10 issues. So I think identifying that niche core among your favorite market is going to help.
What's a metaverse product you guys would like to personally invest in?
We have invested all the metaverse products out there. That's how we started.
What's your latest investment?
Well, you have to ask me about the hardware. Again, the 7 layers of the metaverse. If it's going to be specifically on the hardware, yes, haptics is one of the favorite part. There are certain requirements for having a virtual show of an artist. Like we recently got an inquiry to get Arijit Singh on the virtual platform to perform, and the organizer wanted his real music to work on. So we kind of collaborated with Exsense Mumbai to help us set up Arijit Singh, even though he's not going to dance, but there's Bacha also who could dance. So yeah, the haptics.
I honestly don't have an answer to that question. I'm just looking at companies, what are we trying to do at this point. Like I said, in my own personal capacity, I've invested in limited to Web3 and metaverse systems, but nothing that I'm still trying to search for that time.
What's your Web3 investment?
Earth 2 is where I dumped a lot of
Earth 2.
NFTs. Any NFTs?
I don't know.
So me too personally, there's so much out there, but nothing's quite been convincing. I mean, we are being a little too cynical because you kind of go a little bit deep when you're trying to do market research, and then you start finding, hey, how is this going to work? How is that going to work? And then suddenly you start feeling this bullish about projects. So I'm kind of stuck in a bit of a limbo. I spend a lot of time on a daily basis trying to look at newer projects and all. But so far, nothing seems clear cut. A couple of games here and there that I'm very positive about. But even there, those things are just white paper, saying it's all speculative. They are going to work this way. Will they actually work? We don't know. We're just waiting for that. I hope they work. That'd be a nice precedent. But yeah, I think maybe 6 more months.
In the topic of investor, I must have pitched to nearly 50 angels to individuals to venture capitalists, and I figured out one common overlap is they want to see the focus of which market you are targeting. It could be as small as a country or a region or industry, but they all want to know where is your focus in terms of the industry.
Yes, last two questions.
Yeah. You come here. So my question is like regarding this accelerator. You're not expecting us to be building like another metaverse. You want us to be building something on top of the metaverse which are already out there. So what kind of
Side have nothing to do with the accelerator.
oh,
Aaron can probably answer this question better.
but the team can. So my question is like what are the tools which you will be providing as part of the accelerator for anybody who wants to build something on top of the metaverse?
See, it's mostly around a bunch of hardware and as we said, Oculus, a bunch of hardware, and so the whole idea of this program is to help you with the right set of funding and market access. And on top of that, if you need some bunch of tools, these implementation partners, since Meta is very actively involved, we have a bunch of studios who are offering their labs for you to get help from them and help you design that whatever you're building right now. So what all you need related to that, that is the overall support ecosystem. There's no defined help. If there is something which is very specific to you and we think that it is needed, we will try to provide it to you. Any help in that in and around your startup and whatever product you are building. That is until unless your focus is on the entertainment and gaming side of it. That's where we are in. And now, if you are doing something in the healthcare space, like we are creating a virtual body to operate, put some operations on, or maybe trying some experiments on the body. So those fall in the healthcare domain. So other implementation partner looks into it. But all of us are together to see the best of the best infrastructure to be provided to you with fund, and at the end you are going to sell it to someone. So that market access. This is the core component of the accelerator program.
Okay. Anubhav, can I just add one point? So my experience working with a couple of folks at Meta is that you might develop a product and ultimately want to take it to a device, let's say Oculus. And there are a lot of compliances you have to meet, a lot of regulations, privacies, a lot of standards they keep. And for somebody who's not worked with Meta, it could take a lot of efforts. So if you are in the ecosystem, they're going to guide you on exactly how to apply, for the Oculus Store. Like you must have, submitted your applications to App Store and Play Store. This Oculus Store again comes with a lot of regulations. So I think Meta helps you there.
You had.
Hello. So I have been working on several projects. I'm also finishing my master's. So a bunch of these projects have been on games or academic projects, exploratory projects, but on AR, VR. And for some last 1 year, I have also been working on like retail experience project in a team of 4. But and we were also being able to get decent amount of money on that with clients. But like you said, there's the quality of standard is already pretty high that you need for a minimal lovable product, and then the people who are good at these skills are very rare, and the tech keeps on changing very fast. So like how to go beyond like your network of your friends and how to go beyond that to find out talent. Where you also are worried about finances and how to pay them.
Yeah, I have the luxury of working in a multinational. Let the startup guys answer this question. Taking the easy way out.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, talent in these particular tools, a lot of proficiency, and it's not just about somebody who knows how to use, who needs somebody who's like really good to deliver the kind of quality that people have taken for granted. The big problem is that users have taken this for granted. So now, unless you meet that, it's just gonna crash. We've seen a couple of games which have launched with a lot of hoopla. If you actually look at games which are launched with movie actors, So it's a big battle, and that's why I would say that it's not a battle that you're going to win on the first pass for sure. So you're going to try. But the great thing is you don't need too many people to get something done. Right? Even like a couple of 2-3 engineers, you can build something that's nice. Right? For example, you don't need to build this entire building. You just need this particular auditorium that looks cool, that looks exciting, nice amphitheater. Good enough. Right? You don't have to build the entire building. Don't even try building. That's the big mistake that most people who say, okay, grand vision, we want to bring it to today. Don't do it. Rest of the building can be under construction. No way. But this one looks awesome. Wooden flooring, nice setup, and good stuff. Just concentrate on that. Don't overthink on just trying to get people, because initial days you want to be spending your time building your product. Right? Don't rely on other people to come in and solve the problem for you. If it's that's important, sit down, start learning, and try building it on your own. In between, if you find somebody, well and good, but at any cost, make sure that every day you're moving a step forward by your own knowledge.
I think my suggestion, if you are looking to break out into a new field, find international collaborators. Don't even think about India. I think India has the pay parity issues, the whole bunch of issues. I don't want to get into all this. Yeah, if you're looking to optimize your pay, find international collaborators. To establish a polygamous relationship with work with like multiple companies, work with, do the moonlighting and all of that. No, we actively encourage moonlighting in our company. It's good for you. You will upskill yourself. There is that, and third, like when you see a nice project that is not very big, you should, if you have a superpower, let's say your superpower is design, and you could revamp the web page in like 5 minutes, you should in fact go revamp it and mail the founder, hey, your web page was looking like shit, I just revamped it, imagine what I could do if you hire me. Like, just go do it, show your proof of work, and then charge a premium. Like, if you do it for $100, then charge $10,000. So, like, go with that aggressive approach, and the conversion rate would be 1 in 30. So, if you haven't hit on 30 girls, if you haven't hit on 30 CEOs, you won't get a conversion. So, that's the benchmark. Also, same goes with investors. You also told, right? Like, you met 50 investors. So,
You could always approach accelerators as well.
1:30. Yeah, never approach like one accelerator. Again, if you're approaching accelerator, approach 30 accelerators. If you're doing fundraising, approach, like we raised around $10 million recently, and in that round, we talked to 200 investors in a span of 4 weeks. Because like we needed to create that urgency, right? Like it's like we need to create an auction, two-sided auction where there's a lot of like bidders who want to buy our stock. So we had to, and window has to be short. Can't be like over a span of 1 year we talk to investors. So like at this point in time, for my skill, how do I create an action so that I can extract value? So that would be my approach.
To add to the quality part of what you're building, I think in India, we primarily focus on the coding part, but nobody talks of game art. You will find very few people who are artists, who are gamers, right? So you need to work with those kind of people who appreciate art, like Kashyap said. You take a small portion, make it very beautiful. For that, you need to have artists. You can't just work with somebody who knows Unity and Unreal Engine. That's a software. Keep the software aside. Architects, interior designers, artists, get them, work with them. They understand the proportion, they understand the color combination, and you get a beautiful output.
Yes, so done with questions.
So we're open.
So your last question.
I think she had something. She's holding a mic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it. Any questions from women here? We have a lot of women participation. Go for it.
So my question is like I think you guys have might watched the movie Ready Player One. So in that you feel what's happening inside the metaverse. So is it possible that it comes in like 5 to 10 years? Because when you play a shooting game or any kind of a battle game, you want to feel the pressure or feel the injuries, right? So is it possible that it comes in like
It's
real?
already there. You should get the Oculus too. There are games where you can actually
The whole suit.
the haptic, and then we're talking about the suits.
Yeah, I was talking about the suits.
Skeletons and all that.
Yeah.
Why do you want to kill yourself?
Not kill myself, but when you're playing a shooting game, so you get the shot and you don't feel the thing. It's just like, oh, it's game over. Like real game experiences.
Okay, they're all good in a arcade arena. Okay, but these are all experiential things. It can't be a day-to-day thing. Ready Player One is a beautiful movie. While I was walking up to this place, while I was actually walking with Anubhav, one of the things that I was thinking about is, hey, do these guys think about Ready Player One when they're thinking about metaverse? It's a beautiful implementation. What a metaverse could look like. But yeah, I mean, haptics have to evolve, exoskeletons have to evolve. There's a lot of research pieces I think you guys need to speak to each other, try and figure out, what can happen. Maybe there is a startup there, right? So maybe there are a lot of other people like you who would want to feel the jolt of getting hit by a bullet or getting smacked in the face with a football, right? So that'd be cool. And yeah, maybe think of something. But there is a lot of research happening there. That is especially for people with special abilities, people who have sensory issues and stuff like that. There's a lot of research that is happening on exoskeleton side of things, and something that can help them feel things, even if you have lost your legs and stuff like that. So,
Thank you.
Actually, generally, do you think that's going to be fun?
Sorry.
If you get hit on the face, and you think it's going to be fun?
Those are like it's not like that real hit, but then
No,
just
just
to
asking.
get the feel
It's
a bit.
honest question. Do you think it would be fun if you get to experience that?
Not fun, but just to understand.
No, because where I'm coming from is the moment it's fun, chances are people will build it. And others will buy it. And it's going to become a reality sooner than you think.
I feel it is fun because the prospect of not getting hit is also getting back.
I think it's because it's exciting in itself. Because sometimes when you're actually playing on the field, one of the cool things is like I used to play hockey. One of the cool things was how to avoid the ball.
It's just like betting, like unless you have something to lose, there's no fun in getting.
Very deep level topic. We talked another deep.
Hey, there's a lot of women participation here, so no questions for them.
My question is the other way around. Like we going in virtual reality, how about the other way around, augmented reality? How do you think it would come up? I mean, it would be more realistic, successful, and useful scenario, right? We going into virtual because we as of today we don't know what is really works. But for example, my author can go somewhere and teach somebody or do something, picture myself as myself somewhere else in the technologies and augment my reality. How do you think that would help, or is it part of the same meta way of talking, or how can we can you guide us?
Yeah, it's very much part of the extended reality. It's to understand how VR works and AR works, and ultimately make a wearable which covers both the use cases. There are certain use cases where you need a VR. If I have to teach you how a hospital emergency clinic looks like, oil rig looks like, I have to be immersed in the environment. I would wear a VR headset. But if you are talking about augmenting, is you want a professor to come in front of you and then
and you want the real world in front of you, this is the classic case of AR. So both the technologies. There's a lot of I see a world of hope for augmented reality over virtual reality becoming a thing, right? So even if you have a phone right now, open Apple Maps, pick up walking directions, point it in the direction in which you want to go, it will show you where to go, right? So it's augmenting something on the real world that it is grabbing through the camera, right? So or if you're driving a car, it will tell you exactly where you need to turn based on the camera it has on the hood, right? So augmented reality probably would be the easiest way that people can get into a metaverse like environment. Right? So there's no reason why a metaverse can't exist in AI. It's the way you build it at the end of the day. So Google Glass, I don't know if you tried it back in the day when it came out. The first version was very clunky, and if it becomes a thing, if Apple is rumored to be working on a wearable device, if it is something like this, then you really have a really huge manufacturer who's going behind the AR bandwagon, and it will really create something that is that'll be a very good business platform. So AR for sure is a big one, much more evolved than we have.
In fact, there's a secret project by Facebook. You should search. Okay. On AR. It's available on the secret.
First time I tried augmented reality was, you scan a card, or with a mobile phone, and then the dinosaur comes live, and you can take a picture and send across your phone, friends, there is a dinosaur in my house, in my backyard, in the big. Okay. So that kind of really cool, but it did not work commercially. So, but I mean, my question is like, we better augmented reality first, and then we can move to meta, or we try meta to have it.
Bet on your idea first. So figure out, is that product viable or not, right? So 2016 we built a similar sort of a coaster. We built we took physical coasters and we built a mobile app that could pull out a Need for Speed Most Wanted car from it, or a Plants vs Zombie from it, right? So we've done all of that. But what is your use case? What is demanding the use of augmented reality in your application? If you're able to sell that, I think that would really define where you should be investing in this AI.
It's called Project Aria. By Facebook.
I used to joke with my friends that when Facebook releases glasses, I go on Facebook stuff, but the killer app, killer AR app for the glasses would be, it would tell you, if you're a guy, it would tell you all the girls who looked at you. Without, you have a certain vision, now I'm looking at the floor, but I don't know who all looked at me. But we have these glasses, the glasses itself will scan the whole damn thing, and it will tell you, it will violate all the fucking privacy, and it will tell you, these are all the people who opened it today. And here is the list. Go poke them on Instagram.
So this is what we are trying to prevent. You remember that conversation? Online bullying and all that?
So it is, in my view, I think it is because of the lack of the social app, the metaverse hasn't taken off. Because there is no appeal for youth in the metaverse.
No, I think you should have a conversation with
One more challenge with being avatars in the metaverse. Often we are asked that, can we get our photorealistic version of ourselves? I'm like, we could do that. There's a technology, but how do I control impersonation? So I could just go and with the question and walk in. So these are going to be certain privacy challenges, impersonation, and that's something I'm sure Meta is also looking at.
Yeah, any questions from the women here?
Meta woman.
Ask something.
Fashion, try on. It's a huge scope for metaverse.
This will be the last question. We'll end it only after the woman here asks it. Nobody will question otherwise.
Anyone? Anyone? Any question around
Anything
the
basic.
program or around even the gaming world? Anything you can ask related to
Like
the
they are wondering why am I sitting here? Not your friends to ask a question.
what?
Do you think about this out of jewelry metaverse future? So a lot of art inside it. What is your opinion?
Yeah, that's not a typical use case of metaverse. It's just to try on, because try on is augmented reality experience part, but the metaverse part is to be able to get into a virtual showroom with your colleagues and friends and try on and talk about it, and then own it. So that's a classic use case of metaverse. Is not just the jewelry, the fashion, accessories, shoes, watches, clothing. There are brands like Prada and Gucci which have entered the metaverse. So yeah, there are going to be a huge market around the fashion.
A lot of jewelry and comes with fashion also that clothes and some accessories that cannot be on the real world.
Yeah.
That is why it's been tried to be metaverse reality.
Yeah, that's calling owning the digital asset using an NFT, but that's more of a hype right now. Just don't believe whatever is written on the blogs on the internet. It's basically clickbait, newspapers, those $1 million and all that. You're not going to make $1 million by buying a Gucci virtual bag. Go for the real bag.
Arun, right here, next to the lot.
That's a mistake. No. Not at all. Not at all. I think I would say if you're able to work with a retailer who's got a name, who's got a brand, and convert your digital creations into a NFT, there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah,
It might not be pushback, but there are others who will come.
we are believers of the concept of owning digital assets. Just be careful with the internet.
Right. I've invested in one company called Yard. So the value prop of that company is start buying gold starting 1 rupee, and those guys have claimed to 50,000 transactions on a daily basis in the last 1 year, and the company has grown from a team of 2-3 people to 150 people right now, and they're now valued at $50 million. So companies like that are going to invest in jewelry, like virtual try-ons, because like a lot of people are coming to those sorts of apps for saving digital gold, and that digital gold that they save when they withdraw, they want to withdraw as usual. So those sorts of applications are going to come up.
There's a podcast called Freakonomics Radio. I don't know if you know about Freakonomics Radio. So there's a episode about how art is evolving in the digital world, and how the effect of NFTs, etc., on the physical art world. Listen to that podcast if you ever have time. It's a very economics radio. It's a very interesting take on how very big art houses across the globe, some of the world famous art houses, are dealing with the situation of people not coming into the museums at all, and how are they planning on they quote that the maximum amount of time that the actual artwork or where it actually spends its time is in a warehouse, right? So it's not displayed anywhere; it's in a warehouse somewhere, and people are still investing in it. There are ways in which people are doing it. So I'm sure virtual jewelry can be. Thank you so much.
And, how many of you have spent on cosmetics inside a game? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. People in India have spent $100 million on these skill set. So what is that? It's the first factors. Fundamentally, any luxury goods or anything for that matter boils down to that emotion, a little bit of our total status that you wear, you are either expressing yourself or you're showing that, yeah, I can own a Gucci bag, right? These are the kind of things that are very similar to what happens in real life. So if people can spend on cosmetics inside a day, I'm sure they can buy luxury goods also. What you need is people coming in the metaverse. That's why everyone's so bullish on metaverse. Like in real life, if there are a lot of people convening inside a group space online, there are going to be people wanting to stand up, wanting to show, hey, I have a presence, hey, I have this. And it's very natural, it's human emotion. So nothing can beat that. So it's just getting people inside a place that is the main challenge. Once that happens, there will be hundreds of layers built on top of this exactly to begin the real.
Thank you so much, everyone. So, on the closing notes, Kashyap and Arun, Abhilash, all of them talked about how you pick up an idea and you keep working on it, you take it up, whether you are an entrepreneur like Arun, who works with EA, or an entrepreneur like these three. It's always, someday somebody, and slowly the recognition happens. I'll personally talk about these two. Abhilash, I recently interacted. I remember Kashyap back in 2015 when I was leading University of Hyderabad's accelerator. We used to organize these talks in 91 Springboard. He used to come with his co-founder. Okay, today that entity which is called Mighty Startup Hub, the CEO himself personally picked his Kirti around. That's something that's a recognition. The Kirti is the co-founder of Hitpicket. You should engage Kirti more with such programs and get. In the same way, when I see the journey of how EA evolved over the years in India. As a gamer, I was always like, today also in my office, in my room, I have PlayStation here itself. So I play a lot of games. So as a gamer, when you see the overall community evolving and there are people coming and reaching out to you, I've been hearing about Samosa Lab every now and then. I got the first time the chance to speak to Abhilash yesterday, and Abhilash was like, we have heard about this, and then when you hear that your work is being recognized somewhere, someplace, that's something that will give you more boost. It's not entrepreneurship is not something a backpack that you pack and then you start doing it. It requires, Kashyap can offline tell you what all hurdles, and that too in the gaming space, right, in India. We were discussing the other day how much money it takes to build a game. It's not a SaaS platform. It's much more than building a movie. So that is there. How many students in the house right now? How many students? Okay. How many students wants to work with CI in this program? Anyone? Okay, I'll tell you why. We are looking to hire a bunch of interns. Anyone who is willing to work on this Facebook Accelerator program as an intern, please do reach out to us. We would be more than happy to talk to you, involve you in our program, because all of you are either some or the other way enthusiastic about the XR, overall XR scheme and overall whatever is going on, gamers, all those. So we need such like-minded people. Anyone interested in interning with us, please do reach out to us. We would be more than happy. Thank you so much, Kashyap, Arun, Pushpa, and Abhilash for your time. It was a wonderful session. We have some amazing food there. If it's not, please don't come to us. So please do fill your tummies before you eat. And we are here offline. If anyone have any questions around startup products and all, please do reach out.